You think your first question is, like, do we ever heal the pain? We can heal the pain. Sort of in general, I would say we can do enough of our own work that we are metabolizing the pain. And so we're not carrying it anymore. Another way of answering your question is to acknowledge that sometimes there are pretty big individual differences between people that are just painful for them. And the pain is information about compatibility and fit. And with some people, there's just going to be a little more pain in the space because of how these two beings are interacting with one another. They're not that compatible. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with either person. It just means that in that relational space, the chemistry between these particular wounds and styles and triggers and preferences and the complexity of the human, that relational space kicks up a lot more material than a different relational space. And sometimes the pain is not a sign that there's something wrong, it's a sign of goodness of fit. And trying to get rid of it can, in some situations, be a way of overriding ourselves or staying in denial because there's a truth we're not ready to let into our lives yet, because too much in our life would change. So we get attached to how we think something should be. And we spend a lot of energy trying to create what we think it should be, instead of working with it as it is. So sometimes that's what's at play in a situation. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's a lot of compatibility and there's a trauma history. And the trauma history, which I would say, again, 99% of people have some kind of trauma history. At least we have developmental history. Like we all have work to do. As we get what we're needing and update and reclaim our shadow selves and our disowned parts and our exiled parts, if you're working with IFS, and, as you begin to do all of that sort of inner work, the more that I am able to love myself as I am, the more that I enjoy my company, the more that I feel really integrated and a lot of self-trust, the clearer I am about the fact that you're not actually causing this pain. It's I can work with it inside of myself differently. And the more that I develop those muscles, I bring what I have found for me. This is just my own personal journey. I don't know if this is true for everyone, but what I have found for me is I am able to bring more patience, more gentleness, less urgency, more grace to many, many more of my relationships, because I figured out how to get my needs met, and not by myself, but by just building a community of relationships in my life that really work for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't have pain in my relationships. Of course I do. My delightful ex-husband is in town this week and we're having dinner every night. And I call my best friend every morning to metabolize that conversation. It's still humans, right? But I think another piece of it might be identity work. I think I'm not that identified with it anymore. I just surf the waves, and it doesn't feel as personal anymore. Sometimes there's some of that. So, and sometimes I'll give you a last one that just occurred to me now too is, I've been in relationships with some family members where I simply acknowledge there's a lot of pain when I'm around you. There's a lot of pain that comes up in me. And I'll say something like, I have so many memories and history things in me that that come alive when we're interacting, that it's really hard for me to stay in the present moment, because I feel like I sometimes react to you as if it was 25 years ago. And I haven't figured out yet how to keep myself in the present moment and not have that happen. And that's part of what I think gets challenging for us. But can you hear in the way that I frame it, I'm still speaking about me. I'm not criticizing you. Mm-hmm. But I'm acknowledging what it is that I'm experiencing in the interactions. And there can be relief sometimes from being able to name that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.